Good morning, students. So, in the last session, we have discussed about HTML, and I have explained you some basic tags, and I said you can just make use of the W3 schools for much more knowledge on creating interactive web pages of your choice. So, if you're very much interested to create interactive websites, then you can just make use of W3 schools. You don't even require to type the code from the scratch. You can just make use of the existing code, and you can just modify. So whichever website you look very attractive and you would like to have similar kind of website, you can just go to that website, and whichever pages you want to have for your website also, you can just right click and click on view source, and then copy that code and do the necessary changes by changing the logos or some description text or some menu items. All such things you can just simply replace rather than writing from the scratch. So that's how you can just make use of the existing websites, or even you can just make use of any other existing sources for having the ready made available code, for which you can just make necessary changes for building your own website. And yesterday itself I have said you that our motive is to create web pages that will be served to the entire world. And I have also given you the overview about the front end technologies that will be used, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. All that front end technologies will be used. That means which will be visible to the outside world. So whatever the front end technologies you are going to use, you just need to understand that using these front end technologies you are going to portray it to the outside world. Whereas coming to the back end technologies, you will be using like PHP, Node.js, uh, etc. technologies for implementing the underlying business logic and processing of the data that will be used to serve the front end web pages. And I have also shown you the extension which I have installed in my Google Chrome browser, that is Vapalizer extension. It helps you to understand the technologies that are used for any website you are viewing. You can just go to any website and directly you can just click on that Vapalizer icon in the extensions of your Chrome browser, and directly you can see what are the different technologies they have used. It's the front end or the UI technologies or the back end, whatever they have used. You can just understand that the prominent websites or the interactive websites that you are liking, with what technologies they are being developed. Accordingly you can just use them. And in last session I have shown you how to create the tables, how to create ordered and unordered lists, and how to even create hyperlinks by using the anchor tag, and how to add your interested images into the web page by using the image tag, and how to use the styles for background color or for font color, and even the font style. All that I have shown you. So, and I have also said in the last that we are going to look at CSS a little and then JavaScript of more in this session. So let's quickly start with the intro, and then I'll directly show you the examples. So I think all of you might be knowing the abbreviation of CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and these styles will define how your HTML page element should be displayed in the web page. And before CSS, which came in actually 96, there were styles that were being added to HTML version 2 onwards itself. But still, whatever the styles that we are being used before CSS, it involves so much work for the developer, and also there is no proper standard format. For that reason, in order to bring standardization, CSS is being introduced, which you can just understand it like a standard of formatting the web pages. So you can just treat the CSS as the standard for formatting the web pages. And this CSS will be extending from HTML only, but with more than 70 of the style properties you can apply to your HTML tags. And as I just said now, CSS1, the very first version, came in year 1996, and present we are using CSS3, which will be having so many additional functionalities that you may not be seeing in the previous versions. So you can have the boxes with the rounded corners, you can have some additional background decorations, you can have shadow effects. All these things are possible with CSS3, which were not possible with the earlier versions. Earlier versions you might be able to add styles, whether to the images or the tables or the lists that you are going to create, or for the text. So many things you might be able to do with the first two versions, but with CSS3 you are able to have the additional flexibility of creating rounded corners, background decorations, and creating shadow effects. All these things are possible with CSS3 onwards. So theoretical part I'll just skip it, because again I can understand that you will feel bored. So directly let us get into the, okay, here the HTML element on which you want to apply styles is known as, so here we call it declaration. The answer is declaration. So basically the CSS syntax has two key parts. The first part we call it as the selector, and the second part we call it as the declaration. So a selector is nothing like a key attribute, whereas declarations, you can have single or multiple declarations is possible. So that's the reason here answer is declaration. And next, state whether true or false. You can specify only one declaration for a selector. No, the answer is false, because just now I was saying, so for a single selector you can have multiple declarations defined, just like in last class I have shown you. Once again, let me open. So this was the file which we have created in the last class. So here this is the example. So this is what the example you can just understand with regard to the terms what I am referring to now, selector and declaration. So here the selectors are table, th, td. These are the selectors. And then coming to the declarations, so if you consider table, so it is having two declarations, that is specified border with 5 pixels solid black and specifying border spacing 10 pixels. So like this you can specify multiple declarations. So that's the reason I said the answer is false there, because for a single selector you can have multiple declarations, and when you have multiple selectors having same group of declarations, I mean same set of declarations, you can write all the selectors separated by comma like this. So this is what you just need to understand. So any CSS syntax will be having two key parts. The first part we call it as the selector part, and the second part is the declarations part. So the selector is the key attribute, whereas the declarations are the values associated to that particular key attribute. And here, as you can see, why I am having three selectors directly defined in this particular example is because I want the same declarations to be applied for all these three key attributes. That's why here three selectors are separated by comma, and then the declarations are put under a set, I mean block. So this is what you just need to understand. I hope you are able to understand. But if you want your own set of declarations, then you are permitted like this within the style opening tag. Here you can see within the style opening tag, and then before the style closing tag, you can have any number of selectors and your own set of declarations. Suppose I want to declare my own declarations for heading 1. So this is how you will be writing. So here H1 is the selector, and here within this curly braces opening and closing, I am going to define the set of declarations. That means for heading tag, I would like to set font color, I would like to set font style, I would like to set font size, I would like to set background color, I would like to set text alignment. I hope you are able to understand. So here you can specify within this curly braces opening and closing, you can specify all different kind of declarations you wanted for this particular H1, where H1 is the heading tag. In last session I have said you that we have 6 type of headings. So where H1 is the first heading of with the biggest size, and the size reduces as we go to H6. Yesterday I have shown you with the H1 and H2. I hope you remember that. So this is what I am saying. So within this opening and closing curly brace, I can mention color, something like this, color, colon, blue, and then semicolon. Compulsory every declaration should be ended by a semicolon, and each and every declaration will be having property and value. Here this is one declaration. Just observe this, the selected portion. This is one declaration. In this, before colon, that we call it as property. That is, here in this case, color is the property, and after colon, that is the value of the property. So here, after colon, what you see, blue. So this is the value of the property color, and this is one declaration. Like this, you can even set another like text align colon. So colon is the separator for the property and value of the declaration. I hope you are able to understand. Colon is the separator for the property and declaration. So text align colon center. That means for heading tag, I am defining color as blue, I am defining text alignment should be center, and similarly you can also specify font size, which is the property, and colon 300%. By default it will be 100%. So I am trying to say that it should be 3 times bigger than the original size. The original size will be always 100%, and if you want to increase it, you have to specify how many times. So 300%, when I am specifying, I am saying that the heading, whatever its original size is there, I am asking it to be increased by 3 times. And similarly, you can also specify font style, and then you can specify some courier. So this is the style you are defining. I hope you are able to understand. So here you can see for a single selector, that is H1 in my case, I have defined 4 declarations with color as the one property and its value being blue, and text alignment as the other declarations property and its corresponding value as center, font size as another property with its corresponding value as 3 times bigger, and similarly font style defined as courier. So this is how you can combine multiple declarations and put under one selector. So this is what the thing how you can define styles, and you can see everything should be within the opening and closing of style tag. You can define any number of styles for any of the tags you would like to. Here in this case, this is the same file which I have used yesterday. I'm just opening and showing you. So for table, th and td, we have applied this particular style. For h1, we have applied this particular style. And similarly, you can even give p. So what is p? Paragraph tag. So for paragraph, wherever you will be getting a paragraph tag, so whatever the text that is part of this paragraph, everything should apply this particular paragraph. So I can define something like this: color, red, semicolon. Every declaration should be ended with a semicolon. Just remember that. Next, text, align, separator colon, left. So this is how you can specify. And similarly, if you want what else, font style also, you can specify that font style separator, and you can specify some Vardhana. I think this style we have seen yesterday also. So this is how you can specify. Now the advantage is, even though for example purpose we are seeing very smaller HTML code pages, but in reality when you will be designing very lengthy HTML code, in that you might be using h1 in different places, paragraph in different places, tables, you might be having so many tables in that particular HTML page as it is being moved, scroll down. So in that case you can't define styles for every place of declaration. I mean every place of h1 you can't again define this thing. So for that reason what we do is we define everything in the style, and then automatically within the HTML document, wherever you are going to use h1, automatically that particular will be getting this particular style. So it's just like creating a header information that will be reflected to all the pages. I hope you are getting the point. So I'm just referring to MS Word style. So you are just creating a header information that will be applicable to the entire document. So in similar fashion, you are going to create the style. And as you can see, where am I defining this style? This style being defined under the head section. Yesterday itself I have said you, the purpose of head is to create header or metadata information. Yesterday itself I have said you, where HTML is the parent of all the other tags, and head tag will contain the header information along with the other metadata information. And so style is also part of the head tag only. Style is also part of the head tag only, and it contains the styles that you would like to have for different HTML elements when being displayed. So this is what the point you just need to remember. And here let's go to little more further. So you can even create IDs and classes. You can even create IDs and classes for your selectors. Right now here we have just created style attributes, but we can even create IDs and classes. So how do we do that? Let me just show you by creating a new file. Okay, so in this we'll just create, rather than not disturbing the yesterday's file. So here let me just show you HTML very quickly, and then head, and then so yesterday itself I have said you use indentation. Right now again I am not doing all that. I hope you can understand. So my second HTML, I'm just saying this is my second HTML because for yesterday I have used the title as my first HTML. So okay, now let's create the style attribute. So as I was saying, what you can do is for your selectors, you can create two types of selectors. So CSS allows you to specify your own selectors in two ways. The first type is ID, that is using selector ID, you can just use it wherever you wanted. The second one is class. So first let me show you the first type. So style, and here for defining a ID, you have to start it with hash. So if you are using hash, automatically it's nothing but the ID. You can just treat it like a identifier. ID is nothing but you can treat it like a identifier. So hash, so I'm just giving some krish. So this is the identifier I'm saying, and this particular identifier you can just treat it like a variable holding some declarations. So here I'm just defining this as text alignment separator colon, and then I'm just saying the alignment should be right side, and then I'm saying the color to be red, and then I'm saying the font family should be something like Arial, sorry, one L only, and then even the font size. So I'm just specifying some 36 px, indicating 36 pixels, and then I'm just closing this. Now you just observe what am I doing is I'm defining four declarations as one set, and what are the four declarations? Alignment should be right, color of the text should be red, style of the font should be Arial, and size of the font should be 36 pixels. So I have defined four declarations, and I have just kept it under the ID Krish. I have just kept it under the ID Krish. Now let's create a body, and in this body what we do is, so I'm just saying I'm using paragraph tag. So P indicates paragraph tag. So I'm just using ID equal to, and what should the ID name I should write within this double quotes? Within this double quotes you have to use which ID you wanted to apply for this paragraph. So I have already defined one ID Krish. Not only one single ID, you can have any number of IDs defined in your style. And let's close this style, I missed it. So you have to close this style before the body because it's part of the head section na. So even close the head also, just remember. Anyway, even if you don't do with error, you will understand. So I've just closed my style. So what I'm trying to say is you can define n number of IDs like this. You can define n number of IDs like this in the style, and then within the body you can use any of the ID. You can use any of the ID. It's your choice. So now here I'm just using this ID Krish. Whatever the name you wanted, you can just use there, and then so let me just write simple sample, and then let me just end this paragraph, and again for your understanding what I'll do is here I'll just write text. Okay, okay, what I'll do is I'll just use paragraph tag, and then text, and then let me close this paragraph tag, and one more paragraph, id equal to sample text. Again let me use the same because I have created only one id now. So like that you can create any number of ids and you can just use them. Sample text. Okay, let me just use the word message, and then let me close this, and now simply close the body, and then close the parent tag, which is the HTML. So yesterday also I have said you always do remember to change the type to all files, and then file name, let me use it as second.html, Compulsory change the type to all files. Save. Now let's go to E drive. So now you can see second being shown as the Chrome browser, Chrome file I mean. So let's open it. So now you can see, I hope you can visualize. So here you can see text coming in the left side, because if you have observed, so I have created three paragraph tags. The first one and last one I have included the ID Krish, but for the middle one I haven't applied any style ID. So that's the reason the second one appeared as usual, but coming to the first one and third one, here you can see sample with all the declarations that we have set, that is text alignment right, and then the color red, and then the font family Arial, and then the size 36 pixels. So that's what you can see. Similarly for the last one also I have applied the same thing, message. So the same thing, all four declarations that we have set, that is the alignment right side, color red, and the font family Arial, and size 36 pixels, everything being applied. And the title here you can see my second HTML, and if it is published, and if anybody searches in the Google my second HTML, automatically this will be the uh, result that will be returned in the home page of Google search. So that's the use of the title tag. So whatever the title you are going to give, and if this is published on the website, then automatically if your title string is the exact string that's being searched in the Google search engine, then it will be returned, I mean your particular page will be returned as the result. Now let's get back to this. Now the same thing I'll just show you with changing it to class. Now this particular thing what I have defined is the ID. This is how you will be using the ID. Now how do you use the class? So for using class, instead of hash you can define dot. I hope you are able to understand. Now here you can just use dot. So this will be used for, this particular thing will be used for multiple HTML elements. By using this class you can use it for multiple HTML elements. So here so what I'll be doing is, instead of saying P, what I can do, so let us keep the same thing. Okay, here I'll just use a center, and then let the color be the same. And here what I'll do is, here I'll use it h1, and then here instead of ID we will be using class, and then this is the regular one only. Again here class. Okay, let's just see this. So just save it and then get back to your browser and then click on refresh. So here you can see how it is being applied. So you can see how it is being applied. So it's being applied here. Okay, this should be h1 now. Since the closing is missing, you can see the difference. So now you can identify. Earlier since the closing was not there for heading, everything appeared as heading only. Now you can see the middle tag, which is the paragraph tag, neither used ID or class, so it's coming as default style only. Remaining things you can see sample, which is being used as h1, that's the reason you can see that boldness. And the message one, we haven't applied the heading, we have just applied the paragraph tag with the alignment being center, color being red, and size being 36 pixels, and family, font family being the Arial. So those styles being applied for this particular class attribute. So you can either use this CSS ID or CSS class, either of the selector type you can just apply it for your requirement. And next what we will see. Okay, now let's see inserting a style sheet. So it's very important, inserting a style sheet. So we can insert a style in three ways. You can insert a style in three ways. The first one is you can create a separate exclusive style sheet without any HTML tag. You can just create a separate style sheet and save it as .css file in your folder, and then what you can do is you can just add this in your new HTML document. You can just add this in your new HTML document. So that's what you will be doing. So creating an external CSS file, that is saving with .css file, and then you are going to specify that in your HTML file. You are going to specify that in your HTML file. So that is how you can just use it. For that, what you require is, so here in this case it's already created here, so you can just copy this particular style and then save it. Let me show you one of the example. So here you can see this is one of the example. So here you can see this is one of the example of the small project which I have done as part of my training assignment. As part of the training assignment, we were asked to create similar to Mintra. We are supposed to create a Mintra application. So for that, I have just taken some GitHub code and I've just modified with respect to my requirements. So here you can see this is the class. So dot navbar, this is one class whose margin bottom is defined as 0, and background color you can even specify, rather than the color you can even specify something like this. The IDs, the color IDs also you can specify. I have already said you hash is used for defining the ID, so you can even specify the color IDs like this, and like this some things were given. And here you can see you will not be having any HTML tag or head tag or title tag or body tag, nothing. You directly create your own selector IDs and selector classes in a notepad file, and then save it with .css file. That's it you are going to do. And then what you will be doing is, when you wanted to link it, so let me just open some. Okay, here there is some login. Let me just open this and show you how it's being added. So here you can see how it is being added. I hope you can see. Observe the selection portion, don't bother about the remaining thing. So here you can see this is how you are going to link it to your HTML file. Observe only the selection portion, don't bother about the remaining things. So here this is how you will be linking your external style sheet into your HTML pages. So within the title, here you can see link is the keyword, rel is also as defined. This cannot be changed, you have to use the same thing. Equal to style sheet enclosed in double quotes, href equal to, you have to give the path of your CSS file. Right now I hope you have observed, when I have opened this file, so I have a folder web content. I have a folder web content. In that I am opening this particular login, and in this web content itself I have another folder CSS. In that I am having that changes.css. That's the reason here you can see href equal to css slash changes.css. And suppose if this particular CSS file is defined in some other drive, then definitely you have to copy the complete path. And if you are having both the CSS and then this particular HTML file in the same folder, then you can directly use the changes.css. But in real-time application development, we will be grouping all the web content information in a folder called web content. And again in the web content folder, what we do is we are going to keep all the CSS and bootstrap information separately in CSS folder, and then any images you are going to place in images folder, and then Any JavaScript files, you are going to place it in JS folder. I hope you are able to see this. So here you can see. So this is how generally you will be organizing in real-time application development. You are going to create within your application, within your project, a folder web content, and within web content you are going to place your CSS folder, and in that CSS folder you are going to keep all your CSS files. Here you can see cascading style sheet document. So you are going to place all your CSS files and bootstrap files, and then you are going to place any images in separate images folder. So here I have placed some images. So as I have said, similar to Mintra, we were asked to create one application as Vintra, and that was the assignment for me. So that's why I have just created something like this. And then you can see JavaScript files separately in JS folder, and then all your JSPs and HTML files directly like this. So this is how you will be doing. And suppose if you open this, so you can just see. So this is how you can see, and that's the advantage of creating separate CSS files. So you can see this particular design here, and as I have shown you here, this particular CSS being defined separately. So automatically, by having this CSS file separately, the greatest advantage what you will be having is, so any changes you would like to perform to your website, the look and feel, whatever the look and feel uh, to your website you would like to have a change, then what you can do is you can just do it at one single place, because your website will be containing several web pages linked to each other, and then definitely all of the web pages will be having some common style. You can take any of the website, the background color or the top header and the below footer, definitely you can find same thing even though you are navigating among multiple links. So how do we achieve that is, you can just create some CSS separately, and then you can just add it to all the different web pages, so that you again and again need not define that. And in future, if you require to modify this particular UI, if your client asks you to modify the UI, what you can do is you need not touch every individual HTML page and keep on modifying the content. So you can just reflect the changes in one single external CSS file. Since this particular CSS file is being attached as shown in this selection, automatically what happens is whatever the changes you are going to make to your CSS file, it will be reflecting to all the web pages that are linking this particular CSS file. That's the advantage you will be having. And here you can see, and suppose if I just observe, this is what the UI of this login page. And now if I click on register, here you can see again, I hope you observed. So the header is not changed and the footer is not changed. Here you can see the header is not changed and the footer is not changed. So this is the thing, you can just have it advantages. Similarly, if I just click on again existing user login, so here you can see again the footer and header is not changed. Only the middle portion you can just have it being changed. So all these things you can just reflect it by using this external style sheet, which is separately stored in s.css file. And similarly, you can even have your own internal style sheet. You can just have your own internal style sheet just like this. This is what we call internal style sheet. This is what we call internal style sheet. So what am I doing? Within the same HTML document, I am defining my styles. Within the same HTML document, I am defining my styles. So this is what we call internal style sheet. So within the head section of the same HTML file, we are going to define our styles. And similarly, the third kind of inserting style is inline styles. The third type is inline styles. So inline styles is just similar to the yesterday's example. The first example, let me just open that. Yeah, here you can see this is what inline style. This is what inline style. That means within the HTML element itself, you are going to define the style. Within the HTML element itself, you are going to define the style. So this is how you insert a style. So inserting style is of three types. The first one is external style sheet, wherein you are going to define all your selector IDs and selector classes separately in a file and save it as .css file, and you don't have any HTML tags or any other HTML tags will not be present in that CSS file. CSS file is purely going to contain only the IDs and classes, and then you are going to link it as I have shown you using angular bracket open link rel equal to style sheet, and then type equal to text or css, and then href equal to whatever the .css file, that name .css. That is how you will be linking in the HTML file. And I have just shown you how to create the internal style. So internal style is within the same page. So this is how you will be defining. You can define any number of styles in the same file of the head section. And coming to inline styles, so yesterday we have seen that. So you are going to define the style within the tag, HTML element tag itself. So these are the ways of creating styles. I hope you got this. And coming to the priorities, so just remember, inline style has the highest priority. Inline style has the highest priority, which can override the style that is defined in the head section. I mean, inline styles can override the internal style, and similarly, internal style can override the external style sheet that is linked in the document. So this is the hierarchy you should remember. Uh, I mean the just like operator precedence. You can just treat it like something like operator precedence. So here, inline styles will override the styles that are defined in the head section, and the internal styles can override the style that is linked as the external style sheet. So this is the priorities you can just remember. So this is what I would like to discuss with regard to CSS. And now, without wasting any time, I would like to start my session on JavaScript. Rest of the things you can just go to this particular PBL lab, because as I observed, many of them are not feeling interesting if I am discussing the same things that are defined in the PBL lab. That's why I thought of discussing only the key points, so that since you all have access and you are already in your final year, you can just work on them. And this particular app, since it's meant for students, they have given clearly very examples also. They have given all the examples. The same code you can just type it and experience the execution. And this is how you define the comments in CSS. So just like in Java block comments, you can just see that. So that's the reason I don't want to go through these documents and explain each and everything. So you can just try exploring each and everything. So here you can see the CSS style linkings and list item markers, and similarly the box model. So the box model basically it is used for laying out the document. So you can just try the same code. Here the code is given. The same code you can just see how it is working. And CSS3, as I have already said you, so it's the latest trend that is being used, and the main intention of CSS3 invention is for having the standardization, or you can just say internationalization, the format that should be followed by all people across the globe. For that purpose, CSS3 is being introduced, and not only the standardization, it also come up with some additional functionalities like, as I have said you earlier, you can just have some rounded corners, you can have some background decorations, you can have the shadow effects. All that is possible with CSS3. And now coming to JavaScript. So why JavaScript and what is the advantage of this JavaScript? So basically we use JavaScript mainly for having validation on the client side. We use JavaScript mainly for having validation in the client side itself. That's the basic advantage that you get with the use of JavaScript. Even though initially it was only meant for validation at only the client side, now even the Node.js, that's the Node JavaScript, is being used for server side validations also. But still, general purpose JavaScript usage means we say client side validation only. And why to use JavaScript is because it's very easy to use this object oriented scripting language. So you can just treat JavaScript as a object oriented scripting language. And the key purpose of JavaScript is that you can create live online applications. So you must be understanding by the term live online application. So that's the key advantage you are going to get with JavaScript. So you will be very easily able to create live online applications, and this JavaScript can be easily embedded within the HTML document. When we say it can be easily embedded within HTML document, you must automatically understand that the web browsers can understand this JavaScript as well. Web browsers can understand this JavaScript as well. So that's the advantage you will be having. And where do you write this particular script? So you are going to include the script within the body. You are going to include script within the body. So styles you are writing within the head section, and script you are going to write within the body section. I hope you are able to understand the difference. So style you are going to, I mean the CSS. Style means CSS. So the styles you are going to include within the head section, whereas the script you are going to include within the body section. Now again, I don't want to discuss this theory. Let's directly get into the code part, and let me create a new document here. And now let's create a small script. So here I go, default HTML, and then head, and then title. Okay, without the opening I am closing. So my JavaScript. Okay, let me use this my first JavaScript, something like that. And then, so as I already said, it's a good way of keeping your own titles to the web pages rather than having it them as untitled. And then I'm not going to include any styles because I have already discussed about styles. Let's directly concentrate on script. So now I'm going for the body section. Now what you do is, within the body section we are going to use the tag script. We are going to use the tag script. So script language equal to, you will define like this, JavaScript. So this information you are giving it to the browser. This information you are giving it to the browser. So script language equal to JavaScript, which should be enclosed in double quotes. Now, just like in the Java, how you will be having system.out.println, here if you want to display the message on the browser page, you will be using document.write. So you will be using the statement document.write. So just similar to the system.out.println, with the difference that system.out.println writes it to your console, whereas this document.write will write to the web page. Will write to the web page. Now let's display very basic message. Welcome to JavaScript. So very simple message. we'll start adding code to this, and then after this, which one you have to close first? Script you have to close first. I hope I need not explain that dead slow. So after script, which tag you have to close? The body tag we have to close, and then obviously after body tag we are left with the parent of all tags, that is HTML tag. So we are done. So just let's save it, and then so let me just name it as third, because first and second are the two files which I have used. So HTML, and always do remember, again I'm saying, when you are using notepad, since you are not going for creating a HTML file, you are creating a blank file. So when you are saving, compulsory change the type to all files, and then click on save. Now let's get back to the folder. So we are able to see this. So third.html, which it is showing me as a Chrome openable file. So here you can see it's nothing to show much about the output, just to show you that how we will be using. So welcome to JavaScript. Here you can see the title, my first JavaScript. So now what we do is, let's add few more changes to this and understand much depth about the JavaScript usage. Now, as the name itself makes you understand, it's not the regular programming language, it's the scripting language, and the scripts are meant for running in the background. Basically the scripts purpose is to run in the background and then perform some validation. That's what the scripts will be doing. And as the name itself makes you understand, it's a JavaScript. So when we are saying it's a JavaScript, it has the syntax somewhat similar to the Java. It has syntax somewhat similar to the Java. And JavaScript elements, major things that you must be aware is variables, expressions, the control structures, functions, arrays and objects. So these are the 5 major JavaScript elements you need to be familiar with. Rest of the things, they are optional, but in real world application development also, these are the these are the 5 JavaScript elements you should be familiar with. The first one, variables; the second one, expressions; the third one, control structures; and the fourth one, functions; and lastly, arrays and objects. So coming to variables, how do you define variables? So make sure that all the JavaScript code you are writing, they will be within the opening of script language tag and before the closing of script tag. I mean, all the JavaScript code you are going to write, it should be after the opening of script tag and before the closing of script tag. And how do you perform this is, variable declaration. First I'm just discussing about variable declaration. So var is the keyword, so you don't need to mention any data type, just like in Python. I hope all of you might have been got enough training about the introduction to Python. So you know, even in Python we are not going to define any data type. So based on the value that the variable is being assigned with, automatically the type is being understood. Similarly here, for any type of variable, the keyword which we will be using is the var, var. So here var a equal to 4, and then you can just keep something like this semicolon, or if you want you can even attach another variables, and here you can tell something like this. I hope you are able to understand. And remember, just like Java, JavaScript is also strictly case sensitive. JavaScript is also strictly case sensitive. Like I said for HTML that it is case insensitive language, but JavaScript is case sensitive language. Remember that. Why I am saying is because declaring small a is not equivalent to capital A. But coming to these tags, small html is equivalent to capital HTML, like that. That's what I am just trying to tell. So JavaScript is strictly case sensitive, and here var a equal to 4, msg equal to high. So here you can just understand I'm using the keyword var for defining variables, and a equal to 4, that means a is of type number, and message which is holding the value hi, that is enclosed in double quotes. So you must understand that message is of type string. Similarly, you can even mention what else? Yeah, you can even mention some c equal to true. What does it indicate? Boolean. So this is how you can mention variables in JavaScript. And as I was saying, even though you don't define any data type, but the data types JavaScript supports is numbers. It can be any type numbers. It can be integer numbers or real numbers, whatever it is. And then Boolean, that's either true or false, and strings. So no characters, just like in Python. And then objects or null values. These are the different types that JavaScript supports. And coming to expressions, there's nothing much to discuss, because with C and Java you have already studied about what an expression is. So whatever might be the length of the expression, any expression will be evaluating to a single value. Whatever might be the length of the expression, any expression will be evaluated to a single value, and the value that is going to be stored must be matching type. But coming to JavaScript, since you are not using any data type before the declaration of the variable, so you can just use any variable, and then you can have the right hand side, I mean after the is equal to, you can have any lengthy expression. By default, whatever might be the resultant type of the evaluated expression value, it can be stored on the left hand side variable, because you are not going to have any type conflicts. Here you will not be having any type conflicts. And then coming to the third category of JavaScript elements, control structures. So control structures, there's nothing much to discuss. Whatever the control structures you have studied as part of Java, all of them are the same usage. That is the selection statements, if else, switch, they are the same, including the syntax. I mean including the syntax. So if you want to use if condition, again I need not tell, if a greater than 0, and then something you will write within this, and then if you want to add else part, you can just write else part like this. So nothing difference, that's what I am saying. And similarly switch, if you want, you can just use switch, and then some a, and then here as usual, so you can just have this case, and then one, you will write some document.write or some other code, and then you will be having break, and lastly default. So that's what I'm trying to say. So there's nothing difference with the control structures, so they are the same. And similarly the looping statements, for while and do while, with no difference, the same syntax as it is. For, you will be having three arguments. So for where I equal to 0, I less than a, I mean in my case I'm having something value associated to a, that's why I'm just using. So something you can have the code and like this. So only difference, since I'm not going to use the data type before the variable, I'm just using where declaration, I'm using the word where. And similarly while and do while, you can use the same syntax what you are using with the C or Java. So the same looping statements. And coming to the other statements also, that is the jump statements, they are also the same. Break and continue, you know their usage, where to use and how to use, you know that. So yeah, that's what the control structures are the same, nothing difference. Whatever you have studied, it's the same. Now let me get into functions, because this functions is very very important, because using these functions only you are going to perform your validations in your web development. So how do you declare functions is, so this is how you will define functions. So function is the keyword you will be using, just like in Python we use the keyword def na. So whatever might be the return type, you are not going to mention, because by default all the functions you are going to define in the Python or JavaScript, they are the void functions. We call them as the void functions. And if you have return statement before the close of the function or definition in Python, we just call them as the return functions. So you don't mention any return type before the function name. Only thing is, in Python you use the keyword def before the function name. In JavaScript you use the keyword function before the function name. So function, so I'm just using hello, and then here something, and then here you will be writing, and let me just write this document dot write. I already said that what's document dot write. So simple hello message. Let's not go ahead. Yeah, here you can see. So what we are doing, so function hello document dot write hello. So this is how you can just simply define a message, and then you can define n number of functions like this, and you don't require to mention any return type before the function name. Only keyword function is required before the function name. And here you can see this, I call it as a void function because I'm not returning anything. Suppose if I just replace this document dot write as return, then automatically this is considered as string type function. This is considered as string type function because I'm returning a string value from this. I'm returning a string value from this. So next discussion after the function. Yeah, now next is the last type of JavaScript elements, as I have said you, objects and arrays. So what is an object you already know, again I need not tell. So basically object is a self-contained unit of code which will have three characteristics like the properties, which is nothing but the data associated with the object, and behavior, which is nothing but the methods associated with the object, and then the identity. So these are the characteristics of any object that will be a self-contained unit of code. The properties, which is nothing but the data associated with the object, and then the methods or the behavior, and then the identity of the object. And I hope you do remember, I have already discussed, even though I haven't discussed, I think you already know, just like in Java, how you will be having object as the supermost class. Similarly, here window object is the supermost object. I repeat, just like in Java, you have object as the supermost class. Na? Like this, here we have window object, which is the supermost object. So this window object represents the browser window. This window object represents the browser window. And this window object have one property, that is status. When I say property, understand it is the data element. It is the instance data. I mean the class data we will say na. So that's what. So this window object having one property, which is status, that is used to change the contents of the browser status. And this window object is having three important properties which will be used in most of the real-time applications. So this window object having three important properties that are being used in most of the real-time applications. The first one, alert. So alert method we will be using mostly to raise a dialog box. We will be raising a dialog box na? That for that we will be using this alert. And then similarly we have the second important property, that is confirm. So this confirm method is used to raise again a dialog box asking user to confirm with a question mark being appeared on the dialog box, and two options, I mean two buttons shown on that particular dialog box, OK and cancel. So we are asking user to give confirmation whether it is OK or not OK, like that. And the third and the last property of this window object is prompt behavior. So it is used to read input from the user. So this prompt also will generate a dialog box with a text box, and that user will enter some value into the text box, and then with that, whatever you want, you can just define. So very quickly I'll just show you how to use them. So within this script, now let me just use that. So function, let me just write this hello. Very simple information only I'll use. So by default you can use alert like this. As I said, window object is the supermost object that represents the browser window. So I'm just using alert of, and in this I'm just okay, let's write a test alert or a testing alert, something like that. So I'm just writing testing alert. So simple message, because we are interested only to understand this. And now here you can just even write in comments, but just remember document.write is used to write something on the web page. And here comments in JavaScript, the two types of comments which you are already familiar with: single line comments like this, that is two forward slashes, and the block comments with forward slash asterisk, and then multiple lines, and then you will be having the asterisk and forward slash na. So the two types of Java comments, the same thing you can use in JavaScript also. So here you can see what I have done. I have defined some function as hello, and then now what we are trying to do is uh, let's just okay, let's end this script. And after the script, what I'll do is I'll just create a button. This is how you can create a button. So use the button tag, and then on click functionality I'm using. So button on click equal to, so I'm defining the action. So when the button is clicked, what action you want to take place. So that action you have to enclose in double quotes. So I want to invoke the function hello. Just observe what I'm doing. So I'm just enclosing in double quotes that if the button is clicked, then what is the action to be taken? It has to invoke the function hello. That's what I'm just saying. And just close this. And you have to mention the button name now. So for that I'm just writing click, uh, click here, something, any name you can just give, and then just close this button tag. So I hope this is sufficient. Now let's just save this, and then so let's refresh. So let me maximize the screen. So here you can see, after I have just saved it and clicked on the refresh of my browser page, you can see the code is changed as click here. Now when I click here, here you can see the alert. Here you can see the alert. So testing alert, whatever that alert message I have given, that message you can see being displayed, and only one single button OK. This will contain only one single button OK. I hope you are able to see this and understand this. So this is how you can just use the alert, and most of the times we will be applying this particular alert in our regular application developments, and then click on OK. So this is how you can just click here, and then you can see alert window being appeared. And now let's look at the other. Let me get back. Now the next one what we will see is, so after that I said you confirm na. So now let's look at confirm. So here so let me just write here confirm, and then here let me write this as testing confirm. So anyway, function name I haven't changed. Let the button also be the same, and once again save it, and let me maximize, and again refresh. and then click here. So now you can see the difference. So right now there is nothing question here, but if you want, you can just write a question there. Like the best example is you might have seen like, do you want to overwrite the contents? The file is when you are trying to copy something which is already existing there, it will ask you now, do you want to overwrite the contents? Then you will be getting to see something, a dialog box will appear like this, okay or cancel. So I hope you observed the difference. In the earlier case, that is for the alert, you don't see this cancel button, but now you can see the cancel button. I hope you got that. And based on the answer, you can just write additional code what you wanted to do. So if user is clicking on OK, what you want to perform. If user is clicking cancel, what you want to perform. So something like that, you can just add some script to your HTML document. So if OK is clicked, what you want to do. If cancel is clicked, what you want to do. Accordingly, you can write your own code. So that's how you will be using this. And the lastly, prompt. So the last one, as I said, prompt. So here you can just let me just modify it as enter name. Then let me just save this. I'm not going to the in-depth. I'm just showing you how it appears. And now if I click here, still testing confirm. Okay, I got it. I haven't refreshed the page, I think. Refresh. Yeah, here you can see. So this is what you have to understand. Without clicking refresh, even though you saved it, it doesn't reflect. So enter name. So I will be giving my name, and then if I click on OK, then right now I haven't written any additional code to read this value into some particular variable and then perform some additional code. Nothing, I haven't added much. So I'm just trying to show you how you are going to use the window objects properties. So I said window object is the supermost object that represents the browser's window, and it has three key properties. Three key methods. That is alert, that is used to raise a dialog box, which you can have only one single button pressing OK, and confirmed method, which is used to ask user for confirmation, having two buttons, OK and cancel. And the third method is prompt, giving user a text field and reading value, and then you can just use that value and apply to the additional code that you have. So this is how you will be using the methods of the window object, which is the supermost object of browser window. So that's it with regard to this particular thing. Now next is after this you have this you can use the math also. So math you can use directly. Suppose I'm having where x equal to 5, and then where y equal to 2, and then what you can do is document dot write off. So you can just apply the math functions. Math dot seal of x by y. I hope you know these functions. So you don't require to write any import statements. Directly you can use this math. So seal function, what it will do, it performs that x by y, and then the upper bound value will be taken. Similarly, you can even use instead of seal, you can just replace this with what, floor. And similarly, you can even write round also. Round if the value is less than 0, I mean less than 0.5, it performs the floor. If it is greater than 0.5, it performs the seal. Similarly, you can see other values like math dot pi you can use. So it's the property, and similarly you can even see math dot so random function also you can see. So you can just try all these things and get to know what it will be doing. And similarly you can see with max function, which takes two arguments x and y. Similarly you can look at math dot min function, again two arguments x and y. So and let's remove this. Let me just save this and let's run this. Okay, since I haven't used any slash n's, so you can just see. So instead of that, what you can do is, so better to use document.writeln. So just like your system.out.print and system.out.println, here also we have document.write and document.writeln. I hope I need not tell again the difference. So after displaying that, a new line will be appended. So just save this and then refresh. So still it's not coming in new line. So here you can see, so 5 by 2 seal function when I have used, it's coming 3, and then here you can see next floor function 2, round function 3, and then the pi value it is showing, and then the random function here you can see. So random function by default it returns any value between 0 and 1, and then this is the max of x and y, this is the min of x comma y. So this is how you can even use the math function. And similarly you can even try with the strings. So the strings I'm not going to discuss, because string object is having all the functions whatever you have seen with the Java's string class na, that is index of, last index of, character at function, length function, substring function, two lowercase, two uppercase. So whatever the string class functions you might have seen in Java, all the same functions with the same syntax method names you have even in the JavaScript. So you can directly declare a string and then you can apply all these functions just now what I mentioned using the string object. And only one difference here you have is the double equal to and triple equal to operators that you can apply among two strings. So double equal to used between two string objects, I think you know. So it will be checking for the contents whether they are equal or not. So double equal to is used to check only for the contents whether they are equal or not, whereas triple equal to if we use, it not only check the contents, it also checks their types. That's the basic difference with the double equal to and triple equal to operators in the JavaScript. And this is what you just need to remember with regard to math and string. So string I'm just leaving it as assignment to you, which you can just explore it. And as I mentioned, all the Java string class methods whatever you have seen, starting from character function to the change of cases, getting the indexes, getting the last occurrences, returning the substrings, all those things you can use the same things what you have applied in the Java. And next, coming to arrays, very quickly I'll just show you how to we declare arrays. So here where, let me just change it, a equal to new array of some 20. So I hope I need not explain what it's going to do. So it's going to create an array with the size of 20. And how do you access the values? So a of 0, a of 1, the same way. So you can just assign values like this, a of 0 equal to, you can just store anything dynamically like this, and no type specification. So you can store different typed values. And similarly, instead of specifying the size, you can also specify directly like this. So new array, within the brackets itself you can also mention strings, something like this: a, b, and then c. So just something like this you can just use. And then in order to navigate it, I need not tell, so you know that. So for where I equal to 0, I less than a dot length I plus plus, and then you will be writing document dot write ln a of I. So this is how you will be using, just like the way how you use in Java. So let's check it once. Not about the output. Refresh. So here you can see how it is being retrieved. So you can just see that. And what else? So coming to array objects, you have three methods. Three inbuilt methods of arrays are there. The first one, join, as the name itself makes you understand. So if I am having two arrays, I can just use a dot join of b. Automatically a will be joined with b, and similarly a dot sort, which will return the sorted array, and a dot reverse, which will return the reversed array. So these are the three inbuilt methods we have with arrays. Join, meant for joining the elements of array, and it returns as a string. And sort, which returns the sorted array. And reverse, which returns the reversed array. And very last, uh, I would like to end this session with showing you the form validation. So we use JavaScript for performing form validations. What do you mean by validation? So basically validation is meant for cross checking the things that were provided by the user on the user side itself. So before submitting any form to the server, we are going to perform certain validations on the client side itself, rather than again posting it to the server and then checking at the server side and then returning the things that are missing in the form entry by the user, and then again he performs something and then again he sends it for the server to recheck it. So rather than having this unnecessary burden over the server, the validations we can perform it on the client side itself. So just for your example, I'm just telling, suppose if there is an online application form that is being clicked by user, and if all the things that are entered by the user in that online application form are correct, then only the form should be submitted to the server. Otherwise, if any mistakes are there at the client side, I mean at the time of form entry itself, it should be checked there itself, and there itself it should be giving some error messages asking him to correct before submitting it to the server. So like example, so if phone number is there, phone number must and should contain only digits, and it should be compulsory 10 digits. Similarly, if email field is there, email field compulsory must and should contain at the rate, and then it should contain some gmail.com or yahoo.co.in, some domain name it should contain. Similarly, name must and should contain only characters and no special symbols. Similarly, if we are creating a registration form, must and should the password should be minimum of so and so length, and it must and should contain some symbol. I hope you are able to get the points. So like these things, you can just restrict, you can just check at the user end itself. I mean before the form is being submitted to the server for getting some response, there itself it can be checked on the client machine itself. For that we use this JavaScript basically for performing this client side validation. So we use JavaScript for performing that client side validation. So I'll just take 5 more minutes. for showing you a simple demonstration of how do we do validation using JavaScript. So very quickly, I'll just show you. So let me modify in this same thing. My JavaScript validation, and then what we do here within this script. Okay, let me just remove this, and now here I'll just write a function and validation demo. So I'm just writing a function for performing the validation, and within this validation demo I'm just including two variables. So variable name equal to, I'll just tell you what it is meant for, document dot, so my form dot name dot value, and then similarly where is the keyword, pwd is my variable name, equal to, again I'll just copy this same, and then let me just paste this, and instead of name I'm going to use the identifier pwd. I'll just use these identifiers in some other place. I'll just show you, and then if name is empty or it's null, so I'm just saying alert. We have seen just now how to, what is the use of alert. Name can't be empty, and then I'm just returning false. I'm just returning false. So this is if condition, and similarly I'm also going to use else if. So pwd dot length less than 6. So I'm just going to raise one more alert. So let me just use this, copy, paste. So password must be minimum 6 characters. So I'm just I hope you understood what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create a form that is containing a username and password. That's like something like registration, and then else if things are fine. Uh, okay, let's not create another form again for this. So after this, what we do is we'll just create a form directly. So this should be the closing of the function, and then here what I'll do is I'll just create a simple form. So form name equal to my form. So I hope now you understood what is this my form. So here I have used na. So document is the implicit object, and my form is the form name, and then so method equal to, and I'll just tell what the difference here. Method equal to post, and then action. So this action has to be some existing of your HTML or JSP file. So I'm just using my first.html which I have created yesterday. So I'm just using this first.html, and then this action should be on submit. This action should be on submit, and what I should have is on submit it should return the action of the my function. So what is this? Return is the keyword and the validation demo is my function. Here, this is the function name I have used now. So the same thing we have to write it here in the return. So on submit, return, validation, demo, and then close this. And then here I'm just using my username, and then this will be written in the body now. So as it is, it comes, and here you have to use this input type equal to text, that is for getting the text box, for getting the text box, name equal to name, and I hope now you got this understood. So this name is the one which I have used here. So for this name I'm getting that from the name value. So name, and then use some break tag in order to get a new line character, and similarly password, and here again input type equal to, so rather than using text I will be using for password, we can use the password field itself, because text means it will be shown, password it will not be shown, for that I am using. So this name should be equal to pwd, which I have used above, again break tag. So here you can see this pwd here I have used, so that pwd value I am getting it for checking it. And lastly, let's create a simple button. So input type equal to submit. So by default the type submit will create a submit button. So value, that is the text that should be inside this. So I'm just writing the text as register. So let's just end this, and one thing we have to close is form tag I have used now. So I have just closed form tag. So that's the only thing I have used. So I hope it should be fine. So let's save this. Let's check it. Let me maximize. Let me refresh. So it's not coming. So what the mistake we made? Let me check it quickly. So HTML head title, my JavaScript validation, head is closed here within the body tag script. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just close this script. Let me close the script before the form itself, and then are the braces correct? Script language JavaScript, form validation demo ended properly. If name equal to null or name is empty, alert dialog box. Else, if password length is less than 6, I'm asking it to say minimum 6 characters, and I'm returning false. And then this is the close of the function, and once the function is closed I'm closing the script. Form name, method equal to post first.html, return validation demo, and then username, input type is text, name, break tag, password. Okay, value equal to register. So equal to is missing here. So if any mistakes are there, it will not be showing. So yeah, now you can see. So now you can see the form appeared. So equal to I missed it. So for the last tag input type equal to submit, value equal to I missed it. So now you can see if I just give some name, and then okay, without giving, let's check it whether it's working. So register. So it's registering. So validation is not being done directly. It's registered, and it navigated to this first HTML, that is which we have created yesterday. So why validation is not done? Okay. Here RETURN, return spelling, very fast. And let's check this once. Refresh. What happened? Control yes, and then okay. Let me once again freshly open this. Let's see. Without giving, if I click register. Yeah, now you can see. So return spelling I mistaken. Now you can see name can't be empty. So the alert window got. This is how you can just perform validation. And now if I just give, now again you can see password must be minimum 6 characters. Again alert dialog box. So if I just give the password with 6 characters, then you can see on click the action which we have set it to the first.html, that is yesterday's file. I've just given that. So you can see that first HTML being displayed. I hope you understood this particular return. So thanks Shravani for specifying that in the comment section that my return spelling was wrong. Even Sumant mentioned that the return spelling was wrong. So that's what, while typing fast, I just made that spelling mistake. I hope you understood. So this is how you'll be using the form validation using JavaScript, which you can perform the validations of any form before being submitted to the server on the client side itself, rather than burdening server for this kind of validations also. This is the main purpose of validations, JavaScript validations. I hope everyone understood the purpose of JavaScript validations. And the last one, Bootstrap, I'm just leaving it to you. Only the Bootstrap I left it. And regular expressions, I think you might have studied with your flat subject. The same kind of regular expressions you will be using even for the JavaScript elements. So you can just see the example and try it. Very simple thing, regular expression usage. You can just apply it to the elements. And the Bootstrap, I'm just leaving it to you as assignment. So it's very simple. Bootstrap, I think when I have opened my Vintra project also, you might have seen in that CSS folder Bootstrap files. So basically Bootstrap is useful to create this responsive layouts. So whatever that combination of CSS and HTML will be there now, the design templates you can just create a Bootstrap, and then you can just apply that Bootstrap across all the pages of the website. The layout, it's basically the layout that will be the combination of HTML and CSS, where the division tags and all that you will be placing now. So with all that layout you can just create, and a simple Bootstrap file will make it simplified for to be attached to the other HTML pages that you are going to create. And automatically whatever that Bootstrap contains, the combination of the HTML and CSS layouts, that will be applied to all the web pages. So that's the basic purpose of this Bootstrap. So it's very simple and very much useful for creating the dynamic layouts, and as I mentioned, by using this external CSS and these bootstraps, the advantage you get is it's enough to make changes at one point rather than making changes in all places. So that's the purpose of this bootstrap. So you can just go through this simple file and you can just try it. You will easily understand that. So with that, I'll conclude my today's session, and tomorrow I'll discuss servlets and JSPs. So my agenda is to wind up this discussion by Friday, because most of the things you might have covered in the last semester of your regular training as part of the semester coursework. So that's the reason I just want to put full stop by this Friday. So tomorrow I am going to cover, that's Wednesday, I'm going to cover this servlets and JSPs. Thursday I'll cover this XML part, and last Friday I will conclude with Ajax. And then whenever your assessment dates come, I mean that second assessment and third assessment, whenever those dates come, again I'll just come for one day training before your exam date, and then once again I'll just give recap. And I really don't know how many of you are watching the videos, and those who got cent percent in the quiz, when I just spoke to them, I just understood that whatever the recap session I conducted before the assessment milestone 1, it was very much helpful for getting full marks, it seems. So I'm just covering all the key points that are required for your assessments also. So I don't want you to miss this training session. Even though you already know all the things what I'm covering, it will be a recap session for you. If you know, that's better. So it comes like a recap session for you. That's the reason I'm asking you to attend. And anyway, as I mentioned, in the coming 3 days I'll cover these three topics. So tomorrow servlets JSP I'll cover with examples, and day after tomorrow XML I'll cover, and the last day I'll cover Ajax. And just before your assessment milestone 2 and assessment milestone 3, one more session I'll take for giving a quick recap on the topics for that particular milestone. And before your final assessment, one more session I'll take to help you in clearing the final assessment as well. I'll give all the important tips that are required for your assessment milestones and the final assessment as well. So that's it from my end. I know I have taken longer time than the regular days, but still I wanted to conclude the topics by this Friday, making you free and making myself free. Anyway, so any queries, you can post it in the comment section. Oh, before saying itself, why everyone started giving attendance? I'm not going to consider that attendance. Now you start giving attendance. I did not ask you to give the attendance now. I think few people have given the roll numbers and they left, I think. So now you start giving attendance, which I'll be considering. Okay, so one query and one answer. So one answer I have received, that is asking TPO sir have mentioned to give the attendance by 3 p.m. That's the reason people have given attendance, it seems. So, but still, I want only at the end of the session. And one query is, what's the difference between post and get? One basic difference is, like when I'm giving in post. So here you can see. So if I'm clicking on register, you can just see. Okay, let me just show you. Once again, I'll just close this, and then here you just observe what is happening. So when I'm giving some name and some password, and when I'm clicking on register, you can see right now there's nothing being appended to the URL. But if I use get, so there are two types of methods. One is method equal to post, the other one is method equal to get. So if I use method equal to get, whatever the string that is being entered, that will also be appended in the URL. That will also be appended in the URL. That's the reason for whenever you have some information that is to be hidden, then you will be using the method get. Method post. So now let me just close this, and once again, I hope this I have saved it. Now you observe, like since it's containing password, it should not be appended. Like in Google, the best example is Google. So here you can see, actually password is hidden, but here I hope you can see, now name and password are being appended in the URL. Since I have used the method get, now you can see that the name and password, even though I have used the type as password, since the method name I have used get, now you can see that password being appended. I hope you got the answer. Whoever have asked the question, I hope you got the answer. So the difference between post and get is, post will not append the search string in the URL. Get will append the search string in the URL. And this is one of the key difference. The other difference is even with the number of characters also, that you can just post it to the server. I hope you observed. So when I have used post, you did not see any appending to the URL. Now when I have just replaced that with get, you can see the password is being shown here. So this is the difference. I hope you got the answer. I missed it anyway. So that's the only query, and I hope the answer is satisfied. Let's wind up for today's session and meet for tomorrow's servlets and JSP session. Thank you and bye.